Okay. All right, so we just started the recording. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, good. So this is tactic 2, which is, I'm looking at the book. I've got my trusty book here. So tactic 2, remargin your business, expense management. It is not necessary to change. Survival is not mandatory. So why do you think Gary Keller started out the chapter with that? Well, because there are going to be a lot of realtors that are looking at it right now, and they're busy. They've got a ton of stuff in escrow. They've got a ton of leads. For them, they're basically looking at the state of their pipeline, and they're saying, what downturn, what recession, what shift? I've got tons of stuff in escrow. Now, real estate is a lagging indicator. So that means that once the market shifts, it usually takes about 2 to 3 months for us as agents to feel that. So yeah, there are going to be a lot of you that are going to be busy this month, next month, some of you even the month after that. And the big pitfall, the big mistake is to be lulled into a sense of comfort with being that busy right now. And by the time you're not busy, it'll actually be too late to do anything about it. So as I said in like the first 2 sessions, the biggest thing you can do to not only survive the downturn, but thrive in spite of it is to really turn your attention to lead gen and focus on that. The other big piece of it is going to be what we're talking about today, expense management and reducing expenses. I was just saying to Rudy before we started the call that that's what I've been super busy doing day in and day out is expense management for the market center. And it's the same thing that you guys are going to want to do both in your business. And I shared about this on the last call. In addition to doing it in the business, I've been doing it in my personal expenses as well. So we're going to start talking about that today. Before we dive in, does anybody have any questions?
No.
Nope. You guys are good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's keep going. So the main ideas for today, we're going to talk about your perspective on expense management. Where do you want to stand as you look at what to cut, how to cut it, when to cut it? And then what it means to really measure your market as you look at your pipeline, size your business, cut the fat, and then make the most of what you have. And then there's the bottom line and what we're all going to jump off this call and go do, which is going to be the action plan. Okay, so your perspective on expense management, what does that really mean? So when the market shifts, your margin becomes your biggest issue. What does that mean? If we're closing more deals, right, the margin on our business is typically greater. There's more profit. Now, protecting your margin is going to be integral in, saving your business. Why do we say that? Because the more margin that you protect now, as we go into what's likely to become the slower months, the less of a crunch you're going to feel both in your business and in your personal expenses. Does anybody have a question about that? Because this is kind of the foundation to what we're going to talk about for the rest of the hour. Do you guys understand what that means when we're saying protect your margin?
No.
Okay, so what that means is right now there's some of you that are closing escrows, right? So you have a bunch of money that's coming in, right? And that margin, what's the difference between what's going out versus what's coming in? That's your profit in your business.
I see. Okay.
So what we're talking about right now is there are going to be people in real estate right now that are going to look at this next 60 to 90 days. They're closing deals. They've got plenty of money coming into the bank, and they're going to think, well, I've got plenty of money. I don't really need to cut back. And then when they realize they need to cut back is when the escrows stop.
I see.
So what we're saying is you protect the margin now while you're busy so that you don't have a cash crunch when things slow down. So when you protect your margin, that's akin to saving your business, because the people who keep the lion's share of the money they have now before things get slow are going to be the ones who weather that storm. The ones who don't protect that money when they have it right now, and then all of a sudden there goes maybe they go 2-3 months, no deals, right? Those are going to be the people that are going to have to start looking around to figure out something else to do, right? And that's basically going out of business as a realtor, isn't it?
Right.
Yes. So that's why we say we don't wait until there's a decrease in the money coming in to cut back on expenses. We cut first. So, Gary Keller's position on this is you want to be ruthless. Now, how do you want to start? What's going to be the first step? So you're going to separate everything in your personal and your business finances into 3 categories. First category, must have. What are some things that are going to be the must have expenses on the business side? Anyone, someone. What's a must have?
Cell phone. You need your phone.
Cell phone, yeah. What else?
The office dues, the office fees.
Yep. MLS, board, right? What about in your personal finances? What are the must-haves there?
Rent, car note.
Rent, food, car insurance, right? And then there are going to be the things that are like prefer to have. You could possibly do without them if you had to, but you would prefer to have them. What are some examples of those things in your business? Anybody?
In the business, prefer to have?
Yeah, prefer to have, meaning you don't have to have it, but it definitely makes life easier if you do.
A good CRM.
Yeah, something outside of command, like a
Yep, something outside of command. Let's think. Some of you have like a newsletter you pay $50 a month for. It's nice, but you don't have to have that. Some of you are, paying for people to do certain things for you, right? Like you're paying a service to do your letters so that you don't have to do it.
Okay.
To prefer to have, it's part of your lead gen, and it's nice to not have to do it yourself. But for some of you, you're going to look at your margin and it's going to be like, oh snap, I'm going to have to start doing that myself. And then there are the luxuries, the things that are just really great to have, but it's not integral to your business. And those are going to be the things we want to for sure cut first. What we're going to also put in that category are any services or things that you have that don't have a direct dollar for dollar return on your business. They're going to be the things you look at that are kind of like what we were saying in the last category. It's like, it's really nice to have it and it might make your life easier, but it definitely isn't a requirement, and it doesn't create like a dollar for dollar return in your business. So moving into that, this is where, wait, hold on. There we go. Okay, so perspective on expense management. Who will be affected? A lot of people like to think about that it's not going to be them. It is going to be everybody who's impacted as the market shifts, and we're all going to be impacted equally. Why? Because even if you were somebody who was like number one in our marketplace, everyone's going to be doing less deals, from the top person down to the brand newbie who's never done a deal. So everybody's business is going to go down. But by cutting your expenses, you can be somebody who doesn't just survive, but you actually thrive. Why would that make sense, that you are going to not only survive, but thrive by cutting your expenses?
Well, I guess you could say if you're going to cut your expenses, you can allocate expenses to something that would work related if you needed to have them available.
That for sure. But even if you take it a step further than that, something that often happens when people are like killing it is you're like, living high on the hog, and you have this service and that service and this thing that you're paying for, right? And it's really easy as you're jamming and having like all of these deals and this like massive pipeline that it's easy to not pay attention to some of those things. So there are people that when this market shift happens, it might be the first time for you in 2 years, 5 years, some people 10 years, that they're taking a hard look at what do I actually spend money on every month. And you're going to discover things you were paying for that you didn't even know you were paying for. And there are going to be people whose profit margin is actually going to go up because of this downturn, because they're actually going to take stock of what are they spending and what are they spending it on. And they're going to increase their margin because they're going to turn off a bunch of things that they're paying for that they actually don't use or need. Does that make sense? Guys? Yeah? Okay.
Yes, it does. The key is not adding those back to your plate once everything changes.
Yeah, well, I mean, and you'll be able to, and as we let, we play red light, green light with our expenses, and we let profit drive things, right? That if you're going to now add in this other piece of leverage and it's justified in the business, you'll be able to start to do that. But there are going to be things that people like turned on 2 years ago and forgot about, and exactly what you said, Louis, they're never going to turn that back on because it didn't work when they first used it, and they're not going to need it again later. Does that make sense? But can you guys see how if you do this first, what you are bringing in on your deals right now will last you that much longer, and you are not going to be struggling to figure out how you're going to make your expenses if you reduce them now when you don't need to.
Estoy en una junta.
Yeah? Are you guys clear about that? Okay.
Oh, I mean, it's cool because I'm finding the stuff that I was going to pay for, I realize I don't really need it now. And therefore, that's money that I was thinking about spending, planning on spending, that realized that, I don't need to spend.
That's
and
right.
It's kind of cool. So, this is kind of cool on that front.
Yeah, and I mean, even I think in your personal expenses too. I mean, a lot of people are going to take this on in their business, and then not as much in their home life. I mean, I turned off my Audible. I turned off a lot of different things, right? Like those of you who have gym memberships and you're not going to the gym right now, you got to call. You got to ask that stuff to get put on pause. I don't have a lot of that stuff for myself, but like I for sure have it for my kids, like for my child who's an athlete that has physical therapy and things that are automated. I turned all that off immediately, right? You can usually freeze or pause those things. And then I'll tell you guys also in your business, there are things that I reached out to turn off for the market center, probably day 2 of this. And there are a lot of vendors, you guys, that are forgiving our bills for the next 3 to 4 months. So just by having the conversation, there are going to be things that you're paying for right now that you will call them and say, hey, listen, I need to turn this off. And they're going to say to you, you know what, you don't need to turn it off, but we're going to either forgive or defer those payments. Now, the ones that they've offered to defer, I've actually said, okay, great, but I'm also going to need a discount. So there are a couple things that we weren't able to turn off because we're on contract for them. And it was, okay, we could either defer it. And I said, well, for me, the deferral doesn't really help, right? Because saying that I'm going to now pay that in 5 months when we could now be in a downturn doesn't help. And I was actually able to negotiate like a 50% reduction for now. Does that make sense? So you guys, just by having that conversation, there's going to be people who are going to give you free stuff, give you steep discounts, or just let you turn it off. Yep. And that's in both, I've had that experience both for the market center and then also in my personal finances, but it's going to require you to really take stock. And how did I do that? I'll tell you, for the, one way you can do it, and we utilize both of these opportunities, is one way was requesting a new credit card, because it forced a lot of our vendors to reach out to us. Because like you have things on auto bill. Yeah. You don't necessarily always get an email every month when they bill it. It just hits your card. And we didn't want it to hit our card. And then we figured out what it was. We wanted to get out in front of it. So we requested a new card right away. And then it's forcing them to email us, hey, we had a problem with your payment. And then it's showing us, okay, who were we getting auto billed by that we forgot about? And then we're turning back on the things that we need and then keeping off the things that we don't. That's one way. In my personal finances, I didn't do that because that's a nightmare to redo everything. So what I did was I went back into all of my statements about 2 months and then made a list from there of everything that showed up on my statement. And then from there, I was able to reach out and have conversations for all of my expenses. So, you know, who knows, when do you think you guys need to take this on?
Take what?
Take this on, what we're talking about today.
Oh, right now.
ASAP. Should have been done.
You should have been, taking this kind of stuff on and looking at these issues. But I mean, anybody that's been in real estate longer than 5-6 years, we kind of get a feel on how to manage our finances at some level because we don't have regular jobs. You see my point? So, yeah. Again, for me, I was just starting some stuff I had just changed all my card numbers, make people call me. I had just stopped overdraft. So if it doesn't go through, the little $5 doesn't go through, call me. Don't just charge me $35. Little small stuff like that helps. That, it's kind of, again, this kind of happened at the right time, so you don't spend that you don't need.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but even for some of you, it's like you're fine, right? There are going to be some of you that you're fine. You don't have any issues. You're making money right now. You still need to do it. You still need to do it. If you wait until now you're not making money, it's too late. Anybody have questions about that? No? All right, let's keep moving. Let's see. Okay, so again, where's the real opportunity in this? It's in cutting the expenses, measuring your market, looking at the size of your business. And we're actually going to go into detail about what does that look like, and then cutting the fat and making the most of what you have. So what does that mean, measuring your market? Okay. When you look at the state of your market, you're going to look at these 6 indicators. Is there more inventory? Are the days on market increasing? Especially what I would look at, you guys. You all know what things have been looking like for the last year. If you start to see deals that a month ago or 3 months ago would have gone in 5 seconds, and it's up for 2 weeks and isn't pending yet, that's where you can start to see, okay, we're already shifting. Fewer pendings. A smaller board, I mean, that's something that we'll be sharing about because that's part of my job to check what do the numbers look like. When it says a smaller board, what that's really pointing to is agents leaving the business. Now, we're going to probably start to see that toward the end of the year because most people have already paid their dues, right? We're like at the end of March going into April. So if you haven't paid, by now, you've already been removed, but we're going to, number one, as this busy season comes, which usually we see an uptick and people getting their license in the summertime, we're not going to see that, or we're going to see it happen at a smaller level than what's typical. And then as we roll into the end of the year, we're going to see people not renewing, where, that's where you can start to see, okay, the market's getting tighter. And then people's production and or volume going down, and then fewer leads, right? There are some of you who it'll be, we're starting it now with some of our campaigns, whether you're doing Facebook, cold calls, letters, that you're going to notice that right now you send out 100 letters, you get X number of phone calls. As we roll through this year, you're going to send out that same number of letters, and then you're going to get less calls back. So these are the 6 things that as we go through the summer, we want to pay attention to, because as we watch these things shift, that's when okay, bam, here we are, it's starting, right? The markets actually were in the shift. So you're going to watch your pipeline. This is how you measure your market. You look for those indicators so that you can start to see, okay, when is that tightening, like here, because we're in the process of preparing for it now. But the critical piece for everybody on this call and everybody watching this recording is for you to sit down and track your income for the next 60 days. What do you have in escrow? What do you have in listings? What do you have coming soon? And what do you have on the buy side? You want to actually sit down and write that out, okay? And then do the math on those closings that you can project. And you want to be real straight about this, you guys. The ones that you know are hanging on by a string are the ones that you know it was before this happened, like Tom was going to have to like work a miracle to get those guys approved on your buy side. Don't count those. Don't count those. We don't want to count the Hail Marys when we do this pipeline analysis. We want to count the stuff that's really, truly likely to close. We don't want to count the listings that we know. It's like, you know, this person's got no connection to the reality of the market, and their motivation for selling is, well, I want to sell it if you can get me this number. Don't count those. You want to count the real buyers. You want to count the real sellers. Okay. And then you want to write that out as your pipeline and project it out 60 days. Count that commission. Why? Because you need to look at, based on when you think those are going to close and what the commission's going to be, have you cut your personal and business finances enough that you will be able to afford it? Does everybody get what I just said? I'm looking at y'all on the side. You guys get what I just said? I want somebody to recreate it. This is really important. So somebody recreate what I just said.
Yeah, I was going to say repeat it.
Okay, Louis.
I can't. I wanted you to repeat it.
Oh, you want me to repeat it? Okay, so what you're going to do is you guys are going to measure your pipeline. You're going to make a list of all the deals you have in your pipeline, buyers and sellers. And when you do this, you don't want to do the ones that are like Hail Marys. So don't count the sellers that want you to come to market, 20% over what things are trading for. Those are not the deals that are going to close in the next 6 months, right? You want to count the ones that are real sellers and the ones that are real buyers. So if this is somebody who was already, you were going to have Tom Corcoran like create a miracle to get this person approved before the coronavirus crisis that we're now in, that's probably not a buyer that you're going to want to count when you do this pipeline analysis 60 days out. So you want to take your real buyers and your real sellers. You want to write those out, write the size of the deal, calculate the commission, and then calculate when it's likely for those to close. You want to do that 60 days out. So you want to look at, based on your pipeline, how much money are you likely to have come in April? How much money are you likely to have come in May? And how much money are you likely to have come in June? Then you want to look at how much money do I have right now and what are my expenses? And if what your expenses are still more than what you have in the bank right now and what you have projected to come in over the next 2 to 3 months, you need to cut more expenses. Do you guys get all that? Okay, so somebody give it back to me because it's so important that you guys get this.
So I guess basically we're trying to budget. We need to create a budget based on what we see in the next 60 days as potential income, see it as real income, and either cut our expenses based on that projection.
Yes.
So
and you got to keep a margin in there, you guys, because what could happen? Some of these won't close. So that means if you need to have a little buffer in there. So it can't be, okay, I'm expecting $4,000 a month and my expenses are $3,900. Nope, you got to cut more. If you're expecting $4,000 a month, you got to get down to $3,200. Right? That might require some of you having conversations with your landlords, having conversations with the bank, figuring out what you can do with your mortgages, some of these other expenses. I know that I got an email from like my car insurance and different things. You can defer things. You want to look at the very real possibility of, okay, what does that look like? And then determine what can I cut? And then if after you've cut it, it's still not low enough, then look at, okay, what do I maybe need to defer, and start with the lowest cost items. Because what you don't want is then we've got like this massive bill that's going to come because we deferred some of our biggest ticket items. Start deferring the lower ticket items first so you can get that margin down while you're still making money, and it'll give you that buffer to thrive and survive if there ends up being a break in your escrows. Make sense, you guys? Okay, so can I get a commitment? By when are you guys going to, number one, get on the phone and start cutting things, and number two, do this exercise? Can I get everybody to commit to doing this by our call on Thursday? Yeah, I'm looking at everybody. Will you guys do this by Thursday?
Yes.
Okay. Why am I saying to do this by Thursday? Who knows why I'm saying to do this by Thursday?
Because this needs to be done sooner than later.
Correct. Because what's going to happen if you guys don't do this right away? Y'all are going to be broke this winter. I'm not joking. It is going to be like dire straits because you guys are fine right now. A lot of you are fine right now. And we want to make sure that you're fine no matter what ups and downs we see over the next 6 months. The critical piece of being able to be fine no matter what is saving, making every dollar stretch.
And this is one of those things that prolonging it doesn't serve us.
No.
It's like rip the Band-Aid off and get to it, right? Because based on what you just said, if, okay, sounds good, yeah, I'll do it, and then end up 2 weeks later and you're in the hole.
Right. Or something falls out of escrow and
you're screwed.
$1,000 that you thought you were going to get back and now you're not getting back and now you're worried.
Yeah.
Right? Once the money's gone, we can't get it back. So you just want to hold on to it. So for a rainy day, that's really the point. Oh no, you guys. Okay. Give me 1 second. I got to plug in my machine. Give me 1 second. 1 second. I'm sorry about that.
But Mahogany, sometimes what I found though, sometimes is that we'll hold on to money and say, okay, I'll go ahead and spend it later.
Yeah.
And what happens is you count on the deal to help you spend it later, and the deal don't come. Now you got a huge,
you're screwed.
Well, like Nicole was saying, normally in a case like this, I hold every dime.
Yeah.
Now, pay my rent, pay my bills. So if I'm broke, at least I got a place to stay and ain't nobody looking for me. So with respect to just holding it, waiting on something else, and just grind through it. That's what worked for me.
But you know what? Believe it or not, you're probably like the anomaly because it's not uncommon, particularly in this business. Tomorrow makes 17 years I've been with KW, and I've seen a lot of folks that have a big business and they end up with no money, right? They already kind of have that. So you're an anomaly, Juan Michael, by just even thinking like that, because most of us, it's like rap money or NBA money. Big checks come, you go, wee! I can't be the only one. And I was just on a call with Carr explaining some of the benefits and resources for us. We can't even know what we need if we don't take this look at our business. You can't even know what you're going for. And they're going to be asking some questions. There'll be some P&Ls that have to get done now.
Yeah, which we're going to get into that next. Send it out. But I mean, so there's a lot of different things that are going to need to happen, but these are the two most critical. And I want to create opportunities for you guys to win. So I just feel like getting on these calls and being like, I want you to do these 10 things and spend 3 hours a day doing lead gen and get on the call with Trish and Brandon and set up your tech. Like, that's not going to happen. So we're going to do bite-sized tasks, the most critical ones first, but by the end of this series, we will do all of it. So this first piece is really, really important. This is what you're going to do. How many closings are in the pipeline for the next 2 months? What is your projected income from your closed transactions? And what will your average monthly income be based on your 60-day projection? Then you're going to take a cold, hard look at your financial situation. And then once you understand, okay, here's how much I have, here's how much is coming in, then you've got to make the hard decisions and start cutting until we have a number that makes sense. And it can't be 100% of what that income's supposed to be. You got to have a margin in there, you guys, a margin for error. And you're going to look at it on two sides, personal expenses, business expenses, and we are going to cut. Now, a lot of you, we as an executive leadership team helped you on that. We reduced office fees. We're not charging for office space. If you have office space, we're not charging for parking passes. You have parking passes. So we've already done some of it for you guys. Okay. Now you got to do the rest. You got to look at what else you have, and you got to do the rest, but you're not going to do it in a vacuum. That's what's the difference here that I think is really critical. There are people who've already, like Juan Michael's one of them, who've already done a lot of the cutting. But what I would guess, Juan, that you probably haven't done yet is looked at your income over the next however many months and actually done that math to figure out, can I afford what I'm still responsible for? Maybe you have, I don't know.
Actually, I just went over it last night and this morning in command. Make sure whatever my opportunities are listed, where they are, what phases, so I can get a feel of what deals I have. There was one I didn't have in there that I needed to add in there. Mm-hmm. And then, I kind of pay attention to my Quicken, which has my business and my finances. I kind of, see, this reminds me of 2008 when everything just shut off and got off. So I don't want to get caught with off, because off with no money gets bizarre. So this just happened to be a cool scenario where I was beginning to ramp up, squeezing a little together. So now, because it's like this, I know how to just go off. I don't share. I don't have none. And
no, I got that. But what I'm asking is do you know what those numbers are? What are your monthly expenses and what's your monthly projected?
Yes.
So what are those numbers?
I
don't want you to share your business, but do you have a margin?
Yes.
Okay, good.
In other words, I have enough income to cover, I have enough projected income over the next 45 days to cover approximately 3.5 months of my living expenses and some savings. Okay. And that's if out of the 5 that I have, 3, if 3 close, I'm happy. Okay. If all 5 close, I'm beautiful. But if 3
now, what you've got to do though, Juan, and this is the next step. This is really perfect that you're creating it like this, because it allows me to hear like, okay, what did I miss? So what you have to still do is those 3, you've got to look at when are they going to close and see if there's anything that you need to do right now. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So if those are not, because this isn't just for you, this is for everybody. So you might be like where Juan is and you're like, oh no, I'm already like bare bones and I have my opportunities in and I know what my pipeline is, but you haven't looked at that you have X amount of dollars today and those deals aren't closing until the middle of May. What are you going to do about that? This is where you get to have some of those conversations and look at deferring expenses and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Okay, good.
I don't have it figured totally out, but I'm glad we had addressed a lot of this early on, and it just happens to almost like a perfect storm to fall right in place right now. Jacked up circumstances, but it's cool on how it works.
Yep, it's perfect. It's perfect. So your personal expenses, for a lot of us, we're going to need to make some lifestyle changes. I mean, I'll tell you, like my kids, like we love to order Postmates, and like there's no Postmates, and my kids are like, it's Friday, can we da-da-da? And I'm like, yeah, no, sorry. We're not going to be able to do that. It's just little things like that. Right. So each person's going to have to kind of take a look at, what are you spending money on? What can you, cut and reduce on the personal expenses side, not from a place of, and this is what I said to them, right? I'm like, listen, I have, mommy's got plenty of money. That's not it. It's just, we're making sure that if something changes, we're also going to be fine. And I think for those of you with kids, it's an opportunity to, have this be a real teaching moment for you and for them about what situations like this look like, right? Because there's going to be lots of parents who, you're going to have to start saying no to some things and they're not going to understand. And it's an opportunity to kind of show them the realities of like finance and life and business. And that's what I've taken on with my kids. And it's the same thing in the market center, right? There's just been things that it's like, all right, we're going to have to, that's nice that we have that, but that's not a necessity. And we're all going to have to work a little harder to go without that service. And you're going to probably notice in your business, there might be things like that for you as well. So this is just the bottom in bold. This just goes back to what we were just creating. You need to adjust to below your projected so you can be pleasantly surprised and not freaked out if something doesn't close. So here, this is what you're going to do in your examination. How much are you spending and which categories are costing you the most? You want to start there when you look at what can be cut. And then you want to create a new budget for your business. Now, what kind of budget do you want to have? A realistic one that you're going to actually follow. And I would say that you probably need to do the same thing in your personal finances. You know, if they're just like a handful of things that it's like, you know what? It really makes a difference for me to keep this one luxury in my life, and I'm willing to sacrifice these 3 other things over here to keep it. I think that everybody should do that. I'm also, just so you guys know, I'm going to reply all to the manual that I sent you. And I'm going to send these slides since they're a little more actionable than the last slideshow, so that you can actually go back and look, okay, like, wait, what did she say? What am I doing? So don't worry about that. I'm going to send this to you. You know, and then we're going to also send this P&L statement so that you can look at it again. A lot of you, especially if you coach with me, you did this at the beginning of the year. So that's a great place to start. You know, it shows, you know, what are you spending money on? And you can look from there to determine how you can reduce your cost of sales. So we're going to tally up these expenses on both sides, and then we're going to subtract the total from the monthly income that we project based on taking stock of our pipeline. And then we are going to, if the income is lower than the expenses, we're going to start making more cuts, and we're also going to step up our lead gen. And this is how really going to be the access to getting your margin under control. It's going to be reducing expenses and doubling down on your lead gen to generate more income, if not just sustain your income as the deals get tighter and there are less and less of them, you know, closing, less and less listing opportunities to go around. I know I'm going a little fast, so I wanted to just pause for a second. Does anybody have questions? Don't be shy.
Hi, it's me.
Oh, hi, Heather. What's up, girl?
Hi. I just wanted to tell you about a month ago, an elderly gentleman had, I guess he fainted or something. He crashed into Miles's car, totaled the whole thing. And we had to get a rent-a-car, had the rent-a-car. Miles just got a check for $6,000 from the company, from the insurance company, and he's saying, oh, I want to go buy a car and I'll just buy a hoopty. I said, no, let's keep that money in case we need it. And I'm not going anywhere. My car's sitting in the driveway. So it kind of worked out that way. So this is happening. This is all happening in perfect timing too, because now I'm ready to go through everything else and say what I don't need. Yeah. So that was actually a blessing. I knew it would be. Miles said, no, this guy crashed into my car. I said, I have a feeling this is going to be good. So anyways, we have that little surplus. And, you know, I think one of the things too is I'm wondering, you know, postcards versus Facebook ads on command might be a better route for me, but I don't know, like, do I need to do both on a smaller scale? You know, it sounds like I have a little bit of money.
We're actually going to talk about that. That's perfect what you're saying. So then let's keep going, because that comes up next. That's perfect, Heather. But I just love that you're saying that, right? Like what you said about the car, because I think that it points to exactly what this tactics is about. Is it's not about cutting because you don't have the money. It's about having the money and being intentional about how you spend every dime. So you guys could go out and do that, but do you need to do that right now? And the prudent thing would be to wait, since, you know, like you said, where are you going? You guys can share one right now. Yep. Okay, perfect. So cutting the fat. All right. So we're going to take stock and look for results. So one of the things, this is what you were pointing to, Heather, is as you guys look at, because some of you, your lead gen is going to require an expenditure of funds. So you know, what you want to do is look at, well, how does spending that money actually work for you? So there are going to be expenses that you have in your business, and you want to look at, you know, do they help you produce a deal, either a buyer or a seller, and how does it do that? So a lot of people send postcards that are just kind of like an inform. I get a stack of them every day in my mail, right? Just sold, you know, and it's really marketing meant to create like name and brand recognition. For some people, that's still going to be an effective tool, but what you're going to want to add to that is a call to action, because that's when it goes from marketing to lead gen. So we're going to go from having any of those expenditures be about marketing and really focus on having them be about creating an opportunity for a buyer or a seller, and being really clear about how we're going to do that with that tool, and then tracking it. Because if we do the first month and we yield nothing, and then we do the second month and we yield nothing, guess what? We got to do something else. Yep, we got to cut it. So we're going to start looking at every dime we spend in our business from the point of view or the perspective of where is the return on my investment for that thing. And if you can't point to how it would work or where that would then generate a lead for you, you got to cut it. Does anybody have questions about that?
No.
So
hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
So I got a question about that.
Yes,
actually.
Mr. Appreciate. Let me go back 1 second. Yep.
Okay, so I kind of, help Heather in the backgrounds with, I guess spending money on what you're talking about right now. And it seems like a large percentage of deals come from referrals. And sometimes when I look at the numbers, I'm like, we ain't getting any deals off of postcards like ever. But does it still make sense, as Heather mentioned, to still send them out, little bits at a time? And I guess my question is like, is that effective to do that just for recognition purposes in a time like this? Or should we just kind of, like you were saying, cut those expenses altogether and look at where is the source of the deals really?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think, there's a couple things at play there. So number one, postcards are a long game. Where you would shift it is in having it be a multi-pronged approach so what does that mean? That means that if you're dropping a postcard, then it's also going to be someplace where you're either doing some other level of farming, right? Like whether that be calls or dropping flyers because you door knock or hosting opens. It's rare that people are going to generate leads just off of a postcard with no other touches involved.
Gotcha.
So you want to look at it in like a larger framework of like, what is your campaign of touching people 33 times? And does this make sense right now? For Heather specifically, I'll just, share, because it'll probably make a difference for everybody, right? We aren't necessarily doing, it's her and a couple of other people that I'm working with that we're not doing what most people send, which is like a WANA postcard, just listed, just sold. Right now, probably not the most impactful. But the one that we most recently did, she had done like 4 or 5 deals back to back in a certain area. And we put all the deals on the same postcard, right? And then had a call to action. Like she had, it was like this many offers sold in 2 weeks, this many, right? And then the point of that card was, we just sold these 5 houses and had 100 people that want to move over here. Call me if you're thinking about selling because I've got buyers. So that's now a lead gen tool, not really just like, remember me, Heather Appreciate Properties. Right.
So essentially be more specific about those, broad campaigns. Like it should be more
super targeted, call to action, lead gen, not marketing.
Right.
And if like you've only sold 1 house over there and you know what I mean? Like that's why that kind of a postcard really works. If it's something other than that, even maybe if it was 1 property and you literally had 20 offers and sold it in 5 days or something, that's compelling enough that for a sole property, you probably still want to do it. But can you guys hear the difference in that postcard where it's 5 of them and each one has a flag on it that's just really driving somebody who maybe was thinking about it to take an action versus like, you know, here's what it sold for, you know, remember us. It's two different things. So really good question, Miles, but it's got to be inside of a lead gen model if you're going to do something like that. As far as the Facebook ads go, that's kind of, you know, a win-win regardless. Does it take time to filter through those? For sure. Is that another long game lead gen model? It is. But why is that super effective? Because we have technology that will do a bunch of the touches for you, and we're trying to fill the pipeline as much as we can right now.
I got that. Thank you. And I just have another quick question. I don't want to take up too much time,
good.
but
I think we're okay on time.
In regards to the Facebook ads,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I know for myself, even just from looking through Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
These guys are constantly bombarding me with, you know, crap like, you know, sweatpants and, you know, t-shirts, right? This is stuff that I buy, I guess, seldomly. So my question is, when you know, post a Facebook ad for yourself,
right?
Does Facebook kind of take on the load from you? Like you don't have to figure out any of these logarithms, like it'll automatically start populating to people who are already looking for homes in LA or South LA. So it's almost like they take a big chunk of your marketing work off of your shoulders. Is that correct?
Correct. And they have a more robust algorithm when you do it through command than if you did it just through Facebook. So that means, like, let's say, you know, one of our agents is doing an ad and there's an agent, you know, through Facebook, and then there's a Pacific Playa agent and a Compass agent who's doing an ad through Facebook. Our algorithm will actually generate more leads than those other ones because they're doing it as an individual agent, whereas Keller Williams has a partnership with Google and Facebook to create a more robust algorithm to generate better results on our ads than anybody could on their own. So it's just a really smart opportunity to take advantage of because you're with this company.
And cheaper than postcards too.
Correct. Much. What's that, Mo?
Can I add to that? To add to Miles's question, and I think Brandon might have already done a specific class on command and Facebook. The biggest thing is, Miles, that it takes the load off, if you will, but it still starts with, you know, when you're setting an ad, who you want it to get in front of. That's where the magic, but it's literally click, click, you know, you pick whatever the demographics are, whatever the particular characteristics. And then because we have this huge, we're on this huge boat, it gets in front of the right people.
Yeah.
A little decision making on the front end, but it's still really light lifting compared to, I've done it before we had it with command, and that was a whole thing, trying to figure out, trying to do all that. You don't have to do that now. So it does help, but each of us, because we have different facets of our business, maybe who we want to get in front of will vary, but we all can do it and still benefit from it.
And you can do different campaigns. You can do buyer campaigns, seller campaigns, like all different kinds. And that's the other benefit of like what Mahogany's saying is you don't have to run the same ad to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
So, all right, cool. Anybody else before we move on? Okay.
I can ask questions all day if you like.
Okay. Well, let me make it through. Let me see how much more I have. I've got like 10 more, and then we'll open it up to questions.
I know what it's like to speak to non-speaking students.
I know. Well, I mean, I definitely try to engage people because I'm like, it's not TV. I can actually see y'all, you know?
You're doing a fabulous job.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Preche. All right. So we're going to take stock and look for results. Try zero-based budgeting. So what does that mean, zero-based budgeting? It means that you start at zero and then just only add what you need. And then you're going to, you know, take funds from over here and put it where it makes sense versus starting with, okay, I have all of this and, oh no, I'm going to try to keep as much as I can. What can I give up? Do you guys hear the distinction? It's not, okay, I have all of this. What can I give up? It's like, okay, let me start at baseline zero and pick and choose what I need. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So you're going to think of two areas where you can make cuts today. And then you're going to think of three more areas where you can commit to making cuts starting next week. So what does that mean? I think for us, where I really want you guys to start on this is go through and do that pipeline exercise, then go through and do your expenses exercise, and then do your first set of cuts this week to get yourself under that income margin, you know, so that you guys aren't in a situation where if you did nothing today, there's going to be $6,000 worth of stuff hitting your account next month, but you're only going to make about 4,000, or you're going to dig deep into what you've got and you only have maybe 2,000 or 3,000 a month that's coming X number of months out. So if you spend that money right now, you're going to run into a problem in June, right? So you do the pipeline exercise, you trim to get under whatever that number is, right? And then when we talk on Thursday or maybe next Tuesday, that's when we start trying to get that margin between what we're going to earn and what we're going to spend bigger. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? So we're going to still do it this way. We're just going to do it in stages. The first piece is for everybody to get under that income line immediately, and then we're going to try to make that margin bigger as we move forward. We clear, guys?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Now this is, you know, kind of for the people who are paying people on their team. Most of you have juniors. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but what I do want to start with is if you have juniors or you have team members who are just getting a flat rate for being on the team, like if you help me with these things, I'll give you this percentage of my deals. That we want to shift over. You don't necessarily need to change the number, but you do need to change the standards. So everybody who's getting a piece of a deal on a team, or everybody who's getting a certain amount monthly, number one, you want to, if you're giving somebody a certain amount monthly, have a conversation where we look at, after you've reduced your expenses to be under the income, that you also have a conversation with them to do the same. And that you move some of what their standard income is to be like bonuses or revenue driven. That's one thing. And you want to do it in partnership with that person so that we don't like leave people in the lurch. You know what I'm saying? Like actually have a creative conversation where it's like, okay, you know, this is what we're looking at right now. And we're going to need to make some of these adjustments at the end of April, in May, like that. Oh, there's a typo here. And you're going to also want to make adjustments here with regards to your team and have a part of what they're getting paid to do be lead gen. It's critical that the Rainmaker drive that bus, but you definitely want support, whether it's you probably would want to do it that you're the initial point of contact, and then you allow that support to be in the form of like follow-up and some of the other pieces of whatever your smart plan indicates your touches are going to be with your people. You as a Rainmaker definitely should not leave this to your junior. Why? Who was the most experienced one on the team at lead gen? Who?
You are.
The Rainmaker.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the best and have the best conversion rate in lead gen?
The Rainmaker.
The Rainmaker. So at a time like this is not the time to trust it to your junior who's a year or 2 years in the business. You want to take your 5 years, your 10 years, your 12 years of experience, and you want to actually get in there and fill that pipeline. It's more critical now than ever before that the Rainmaker be the one that's doing the lion's share of the initial part of the lead gen. Now, if there's emails and different things that need to get created as like the second and third touch, or if there's, you know, for buyers, people who, you know, need to get put on MLS drips or need various things like that, that's where you have your support staff step in. But this is a big, big mistake if you're not the one who's driving the bus on this, because you're the best at it. And you want to make sure that it gets done and it gets done properly. And your pipeline 90 days from now will depend on that right now. So you got to do it. You guys got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. So this is kind of what we were talking about a little earlier when Miles was asking his question. So you want to focus on prospecting, networking. So what does that look like for somebody who, like Heather, has a referral-based business? She's just got to be on the phone checking in with her people, letting them know that she's on every webinar, every call, has her finger on the pulse of the market. If you need to know what's going on in Inglewood and you've got questions about anything that has to do with Inglewood real estate, like, I'm your person. I know everything that's happening, and I'm making it my business to know everything that's happening. And then, you know, you want to make sure that, like we talked about, if you guys aren't doing, look, I know for some of you who it's, you know, not been your business model to spend a ton of time on lead gen, and you've got other ways that you've been able to thrive in this like high on the hog market. 3 hours is going to take you a minute to work up to. But if you can at least commit to doing some every day, 2 weeks from now, that 30 minutes to 60 minutes won't feel as long. You'll be able to jump up to an hour 15, an hour and a half. Then, you know, we'll work our way up to the 3 hours a day. But it's got to start every day, you guys. I promise you, if you can just bite the bullet and dig in and just get through it, you're going to be so thankful 3 months from now that you did. Everybody's got to do this every day. There's the opportunity to prospect FSBOs and expireds right now. You've got a perfect script for it. Listen, now is not the time to do this on your own. Okay. This is really, you know, for sale by owners, there's a lot of different factors that are going to impact somebody being able to get through an escrow with you, especially with what's happening with the banks. You really need an expert like me to walk you through it. I mean, easy scripts for those two. It says hold more open houses. We're going to have to do like kind of a virtual situation with that. And then, you know, get involved in the community. I think that that's going to look a few different ways. For some of you, it's going to be, you know, going live on your business page, right? To really engage with your people. I think also the Facebook ads, because they are, you know, oftentimes like zip code driven. That's also a really great opportunity. And you just want to, even if what you have your ads be, that they're just more like information based, where you're, you know, putting or dropping little tidbits about the market, about what people can expect, and then giving them the opportunity to click learn more, to get on a call with you and understand better whatever that topic was that was in the ad. I think that those are all really great tactics for right now. For you really just want to be a resource. You want people to know that you are the person to go to if they've got questions or they need help. Okay. Now, making the most out of what you have. You want to put your creativity and energy to work right now. Work smarter, not harder, you know? So like we said, do the face-to-face time, leverage your tech. And, you know, we've got awesome preferred partners in the Market Center. Talk to those guys. Find out what resources they have, what things they can provide. I mean, we're making sure that they're on these webinars with you every week, kind of detailing, you know, what you need to know. But you guys can easily jump off a call with Tom Corcoran, do a quick little blast, you know, with one little nugget from what he shares on about his call, and then a call to action if people want to know more on your personal page, on your business page. You know, that's just one action you can take. But it's where you want to just stay connected to doing more, not paying for more, signing up for more, like that. Does anybody have questions about that? Okay. So this yard signs, maybe, maybe not. Definitely, you know, if you've got a listing, you're going to want to put up a sign in the, you know, like a hanging sign, so you can start to field calls. Sometimes I feel like people wait on that. That should be at the very top of your list if you get a deal. And then obviously using your Market Center services. So I don't know how many of you've jumped on with Brandon and Trish, but I want to share with you publicly now what we've done and what our major plan is. Oh, good. There's 25 on. So we're going to, you know, a bunch of you probably take advantage of this already. So we've looked at what would be like a really great pathway to kind of being fully tech enabled as an agent within the Keller Williams system. And we have a pipeline that we've created with the entire roster. And what we're doing over the next 4 to 6 weeks is we're going to be pushing everybody through that pipeline step by step by step, so that when we all go back to work and we come out of shelter in place, you guys are fully set up with regards to the technology. So some of you are taking that call and getting on with Brandon and getting on with Trish and doing the Zooms. Other of you are not taking that call, and it's a big mistake. Why? Because all of this is free. It's free and it's designed to help you grow your business. Some of you are on AO status and your referral agents. Well, there are going to be people who right now might need to do something real estate related, and they would much rather take a recommendation from somebody they know and trust, right? And you could be cleaning up with regards to referrals in the next 6 months, but you've got to set some of this up so that people know that you're a resource for them. So even those of you that are on this call that have a day job and are only doing this part-time, you know, the way that we've set up this pipeline is that it should only take you about a couple hours a week to do each of these tasks. It's not an all-day endeavor. You know, for the people who are full-time agents that have to do some of what we're talking about on this call, go through your pipeline, yes, that's going to be more work. But for those of you that are kind of doing dual career, for you to jump on with Brandon and Trish, this is, you know, hour, 2 hours a week, and you can, by the end of this, have a bunch of stuff set up that will make you money this year in real estate. So take advantage of your market center services. We work really, really hard to create like a ton of value for you guys and make sure that you have what you need. So exactly what I was just talking about, harness the KW technology. Take advantage of command and the lead gen services, and call Brandon and Trish. You guys, this is like all they're doing all day. Their whole job is to make sure that everybody in this market center is set up and empowered around their tech and their tools. And then here's the bottom line. Downtrending markets are a huge opportunity to find better ways to run your business. It's kind of how I started out this call. When we're all living high on the hog, it's really easy to kind of spend a bunch of that profit because there's so much of it to go around. You know, if you trim the fat right now and then, you know, survive the period of less deals, when you come back strong, you're going to have a bigger profit margin than you would have had we never shifted. And that's the real opportunity of this. You know, your success will depend on, you know, how well you know and understand your market, and then obviously have every dollar you spend produce a result. So if we go to the action plan, we are going to look at, we talked about it in the first part, you know, the different things that you need to do and take on. And then you need to take the steps. My request was by the next call, everybody do the pipeline and reduce expenses to be under that number. And make sure that you get on this call for the rest of this series. I just want to hear from somebody before we go, because we're already 3 minutes over. I'm going to ask for another 5 if you guys can stay. You know, what were the big ahas from this? Because I know some of it is kind of self-explanatory, but we all need to hear it again most of the time. Who wants to share? What did you guys get out of being on this call today?
I'll go. Oh, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, and then Miles.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that I've been thinking about going through and looking, you know, I've got these automatic payments that come through on my bank account. And I was thinking, you know, it'd be a good idea to sit down and see what's necessary and what isn't and cut them. But you've motivated me now to do it instead of just thinking about it. So.
Good. Good. So are you going to do it before Thursday at 1?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Okay, Miles Preche, ahas. What did you get out of this call?
One more thing. This is George.
Oh, hi, George Furman.
Hi. So I heard on a video that as a realtor that lost your income because you cannot show any houses, you can apply to the unemployment benefits and get those $600 a week from the government because you lost your income. I personally probably cannot do it, but maybe for some other people who do it full time, maybe it would be a good idea to get some money into the pocket.
Yeah, yep. I mean, there are a ton of different opportunities and programs that are now available. I believe that Carr was going to share about that some, and we sent that out. So thank you for reminding me, George. Brandon, I received that email, and then I had our agent services and director of operations recreate it and send it to you guys. So search for that, because there are quite a bit of opportunities.
Right.
Like what he's talking about here. So thank you, George.
Sure.
Miles, what did you get out of this call?
Well, a couple of things. I came in a little late, but I think when I jumped on, you were talking about the credit cards, and if I think what you said correctly was that try to put some of those, automated expenses on your credit card. So if you do get hit for it, it's not necessarily coming right out of your bank account, but something that you are kind of aware of, like, oh yeah, let me take care of this, right? As opposed to you just kind of taking a total loss with it if it was something that you forgot was like a recurring expense.
Well, no, what I was saying is that there's two ways to do it. So for example, like in the market center, we requested a new credit card because there were a bunch of things that they don't send you an email every month. They just take the money.
Right.
So you don't know that it comes out until after it comes out. And there are things that you guys are going to get charged for in April that you don't want to pay for in April.
Gotcha.
So, for the office, that was one of the actions we took. And then I was sharing that for me personally, I have too much tied to mine. So for me to redo, I have like 2 credit cards that I use, and I get points and different things from them. So I pay most of my expenses on there, and then I, pay that bill from my income so that I get the benefit. So I didn't want to do that, because then I would cut off some stuff that I needed, and I didn't want to have that problem. So what I did for those is I went back 2 months, and I just looked at the bill and made a list of everything that hit it that I needed to call. And some of them I didn't even know. It was like the name isn't a name that's clear, but then you can click on it and it gives you the 800 number, and then you call and you're like, oh my God, why am I paying for this stupid thing? I don't even know what it is. And listen, some of them are really small amounts. Like I have stuff that's $4.99, $6.99, but you turn off, 4 or 5 of them, that's $50 a month.
Sure. Yeah, that's what it was. That was my first part. The other thing that I liked is the, start at 0 and really look at what do you really need, to survive, and just what are some must-haves, especially in times like this, right? So for example, today, as Heather mentioned, I'm like, hey man, my car got totaled. What am I going to do? And it's like, well, we ain't going to need a car for probably 2 months, dude. At least we got a 1-car household. So, okay, yeah, I got $6,000. I was getting ready to go, try and buy a new Porsche, right? Of course. But that's something I totally don't need, any car at all, right? So I'm like, all right, let's put that aside.
About that already.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a really smart way to look at, obviously food, shelter, and internet. What are these other things that we all probably really enjoy on a regular basis that we've become accustomed to? But what do you really need right now, for real? Because I think being cooped up in the house for days on end, especially with other people like we are, you really start to realize the things that you value the most.
Yeah.
And so like, what really are those things? That's probably what you need.
Guys, get rid of everything else.
Yeah.
Really good. Yes, Mo.
I didn't even realize you said something. It's 25 of us on here, and we've been showing up. And if we do the activities, I think on the other side of this, and it just hit me, we're going to walk out of this as true business owners. Because it's not uncommon. Again, people do it at different levels, but what is asked of us right now, I'm having to do it myself, from the budgeting, the P&L. I can tell you how many of us in this industry don't really function as a business. So on the other side of this painful, right? Maybe for some, figuring out the budget and all that, by the time this is over and we're able to really get out in the marketplace, we're going to be really, I dare say, head and shoulders, even some of our KW counterparts, if we take it seriously. So there's a great benefit on the other end of this.
Totally. I'm so glad that you underline that 100%. And that's really our intention, is that, you know, this slowdown be a real opportunity and a useful time for everybody in Inglewood. Because I'm going to tell you guys, I mean, I said this on the last call, they went forward with that trade at the forum, a $400 million deal during this. So when things pick back up, we are going to be one of the farms that lead the way in SoCal as far as business opportunity. And us taking the time and taking these actions right now could, I assert, will be the very reason that we'll come out of this with significant market share. And when I say we, that really means you guys. Because the measure of whether my job got done is really how successful is each and every one of your businesses. So that's the intention, is for everybody to hit their goals on the other side of this crisis, but also use this to dig in, double down, and create an opportunity. All right, you guys. So just before everybody goes, I'm going to complete the meeting. The two things we're doing: pipeline, expenses. Yep. All right. And even if you don't do it, come on Thursday, get on the call. Don't miss it. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Nicole.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Happy selling, everybody.
Bye, Mo.
Bye, beautiful.